picked up a bunch of dirt over at a compost facility, and I'm gonna go ahead and top all my beds with a couple inches of fresh compost because I'm getting ready to direct sow a bunch of fun things for the summer. The first thing I'm gonna do is harvest all of this celery over here that I've been growing over the winter time. I need to get this space open for more things to plant, and the celery is starting to bolt. So I'm gonna go ahead and harvest all of this, and then I'm gonna find some fun ways to use the celery in recipes, and I'll share that with you as well. Look how pretty these poppies are. So the method that I used for this area of the garden is called the no dig or no till method. When we moved here, this ground was really rocky and hard, kind of like concrete. I attempted to break up the soil and shovel it. I tried to till it. I tried to wet it, but there were just so many rocks in this area that it was really impossible to plant in. And it's mostly just me working in the garden, so it was definitely a lot easier. So what I did was I just placed cardboard down on the ground, and then we went to Home Depot and bought a bunch of bags of garden soil. We purchased the organic Kellogg's brand, and it was about $360 to fill all of these beds last year. This year, when I went to the compost facility, I was able to get a half yard for $10. And I do believe that that compost is probably better quality than the bagged stuff that I got last year. But I'm just learning, year by year and getting more efficient and finding ways to be more cost effective as I go through this process. So now I know I can go to the compost facility and just grab a bunch of soil. So I'm trying to take all of these celery plants out, and they are really, really big. It was actually quite hard to get in here and get all of these plants out, but I'm leaving the roots in there as part of the no dig, no till method so that the roots and the plant can kind of compost in place. And the idea behind it is that they'll break down and add nutrients into the soil and just kind of build upon what's already there and hopefully improve the soil. I'm not exactly sure about the science behind it, but I definitely know that it's a lot easier. And also, you don't lose a bunch of dirt when you take out the roots. I noticed that I pulled a bunch of my tomato plants last year, and it took out a lot of the dirt with it. And now that I know how expensive and how much work it is to put the dirt into this area, I don't want to waste it by pulling it out when I take out plants that are as large as these are. It also makes you kind of realize how lucky we are to be able to go to the grocery store and purchase clean vegetables and all the work that goes into planting, harvesting, cleaning, a vegetable that you go to the store. I have a better understanding and a better respect for everything that goes into it, even though you can go to the store and buy celery for a relatively low cost. It's kind of fun to kind of do it yourself and get the pride of doing all that work, if that makes any sense. Yep, so I think that's probably about a year's worth of celery, and that was just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 celery plants that I planted in the winter, and I didn't really do anything with them. And I still have 2 bunches right there that I need to clean up, but I think that was really fun. So now I am going to try and clean up some of the branches off of the celery plants that are just not looking too good. I don't want to waste a lot of this because I spent so much time and energy growing it and harvesting it. But I don't want to take in all of this stuff into the house because it's going to be harder for me to clean and process it. So I'm just taking off some of the dead leaves. I am saving a bunch of the leaves to make pesto later and some recipes, but I don't need all of these leaves. So I'm just saving some of them, and then I'm cleaning up. There was just a bunch of roly-polies and slugs and snails in these plants, so I'm trying my best to clean it up and get it ready to go in the house, which I actually spent quite a few hours last night. I stayed up a little bit late just rinsing and washing the leaves, and I found more slugs and more snails. And again, it just makes you appreciate the produce that you go and get at the grocery store, because it's a lot of work doing this, but it's definitely worth it. And there's a lot of pride that goes into growing your own stuff and then cleaning it. So here I have a bok choy plant that has gone to seed and bolted. So I'm actually pulling this plant, or I'm chopping it down, and then I am going to let it dry. And I'm going to try and save the seeds. That way I can save on costs for next year. I'm always trying to find more efficient ways to save money in the garden, because it does add up when you think of all the little things that, multiply. Next, I'm going to take out all of this irrigation piping so that it's not buried underneath the compost. So I'm just removing these lines, and then I will put them back as soon as I top the area with some more compost. Here I've got some hoops that we used to keep the critters out, and then I'm just going to shovel one by one some dirt onto this area. And this project took about an hour and 10 minutes to do in total after work. And it sounds like it's a lot of work to do this type of thing, and a lot of people would wonder why I spend my time doing this. Part of the reason is because it's kind of my way of exercise. I no longer have to get in the car and go to the gym and pay for a membership and then drive home. I get to do this in the garden, which is nice. I also love to work with my hands and be in the sun and hear the birds chirping, say hi to my neighbors. So the next bed is the celery bed, and I'm just grabbing all the celery scraps and I'm placing it on top of the bed. That way, well, I'm hoping that it adds more nutrients back into the soil and it builds the bed up a little bit, so I can save a little bit of money on compost. So I'm just doing what they call composting in place. And for me, it's a lot easier than building a compost system, because I tried to do that last summer and it was really a lot more difficult than I thought. You have to add like green stuff and brown stuff and eggshells and coffee grounds, and then you have to wet it and you have to stir it. And that's just too much for me at this point. I can only focus on so much in the garden. So I've been practicing composting in place. So even my kitchen scraps, I will either just put it into a garden bed, or I'll dig a hole and I'll bury it, and I'm hoping that it will improve our soil over time. And that's a way of using the leftovers from the garden. Once I add the compost to the area, I am just using my hands to spread the compost out, and it was so gratifying to see how much better and refreshed the area looked. It just looked like it was like you made the bed in the morning, and I don't know, that feeling of, I don't know, preparing the beds, and I just felt way more confident in the seeds that I'm about to direct sow into this area in the spring. And I don't know, that like dark rich brown color, it just looked really neat and tidy, and I don't know, just it made me feel a lot better. So here next we're gonna work on the potato bed. So you're supposed to hill potatoes. Certain varieties grow like up and then it'll produce more potatoes. I'm not sure what varieties I planted because I just used store-bought seed potatoes. But I wanted to mound these up because also potatoes, if they're exposed to sunlight, they turn like a green color and then they're supposed to be not edible. So I didn't want that to happen, and these beds had definitely washed away a lot with all of the rain that we had over the winter. So I'm just kind of hilling this area up, and hopefully we'll get a lot of potatoes. And then I'm just gonna spread it out with my hands. If I had a rake nearby, I would have used a rake, but I didn't have that nearby, so my hands were just fine. And the last bed that I worked on today was the cabbage bed. These cabbages were planted in the fall and they really didn't grow much at all during the winter months, so I didn't think that they were going to do anything, but I just think that these plants are so pretty. They look like flowers, and I'm excited to try some of these cabbages in a fermentation, like maybe like a kimchi or something pickled. So we're going to try that this year and see what fun things we can make with these cabbages. And then once those are done, I'll do the same thing as what I did with the celery. I'll just chop them off, you leave the roots in the soil, and then I will plant the next round of crops for the summer. I've also got a few asparagus plants in this bed that I planted a few years ago. They haven't done much, but maybe this is the year. And here is what the beds look like with the topper of soil. I think it looks so pretty, and I'm just so happy with it, and I'm so excited. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.